Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 720 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Friday, August 22nd, 2025. Forgot what the year was for a second there. And it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous day at the Beaver Lodge. I have a flying buttress there coming out of my head. Fix that. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me, as usual, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. However, kids and cubs, we'll be getting some grizzly this weekend because on Saturday, tomorrow, around 1 p.m. Eastern Time, tech willing, we will be getting together at the Lieutenant's Pump in Ottawa for our pubcast. I know that you have been talking about it in the chat a little bit. We weren't able to have ours in July because we just couldn't find a weekend that we were both available at the same time. But this weekend does work. So we will be getting together. It's also Pride Weekend in Ottawa. So we will be celebrating that. But we will be all getting together for a beverage and some wonderful conversation, jokes, travel, what's going on in people's lives, all that kind of stuff, movies, entertainment, sports, everything. No politics, no religion. Just to show you that we are able to be, that we are full, well-rounded people outside of politics, that politics isn't the entirety of our identity. So, kids and cubs, do join us, please, Saturday, which is tomorrow around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, tech willing, right here on the channel for our pub cast episode. My favorite episode of the month when we get to do it because it's nice to just hang out with the DAMFAM and not have to be, well, we do try to bring some news about Canadians to make us proud and some positive news too, but not have to do any of the doom stuff. Just hang out, enjoy each other's company. So I hope you will join us for that and to get your dose of grizzly. Just going to have a sip of water here because we must already start working on preventing dry beaver. All right, kids and cubs. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. How's your mental health today, kids and cubs? Mine is doing well, despite having a short night. My efforts to try to get back on a regular schedule, not particularly successful. I have to say, wanted to go to bed early, tried to go to bed early, and it was not happening. I was kind of jazzed up and mind going a mile a minute, So it didn't happen until later. So you have a particularly tired beaver in front of you this morning. That's okay. I will do my best anyway. I had a really nice evening last night in that here at the Beaver Lodge in the city that we're located at City Hall, there's a square in the back where there are often events and sometimes a farmer's market and stuff like that. And over the summer, they have movies in the square. So yesterday was such a movie night, and the movie was Inside Out 2, which I had not seen when it came to the theaters, but I loved the first one. One of the best movies I've probably ever seen. Sometimes we undersell animated movies as just being for kids, but the message and the way it was all put together was just brilliant. Inside Out uh, deals pretty much with mental health. Those movies, but with from fun perspectives, of course, as if you haven't seen them, as if there's a console inside your brain with a whole bunch of players, each one of your emotions taking turns at it as needed, and often being commented about like it's a sports game going on out there. But I hadn't had a chance to see the second one, and I didn't know anything about what it was about at all, and, but I'd always wanted to see it, so it was playing, and I went down and I watched it, and it was fantastic, as good as the first, as far as I'm concerned. Well written, the voice acting is fantastic, so if you haven't seen it yet, treat yourself to it, even if you're a grown-up, you'll get a lot out of it, and, just like I got a lot out of the first one. This it's a very good, explaining emotions and feelings and how they all jumble up and, how they all go together, especially when you get to the concept of like, you know, mixed feelings and then how all of them come together in the second movie to form your sense of self and how that sense of self uh, can sometimes be put at risk and in ways that are not productive, right? And everybody has some growth in there, and of course, you know, it's a very satisfying movie. I have to say, very satisfying movie. All right, so if you haven't seen it yet, there are so two movie recommendations 2 days in a row, kids and cubs. It just so happens I was in two movies this week. All right, kids and cubs, how is your mental health doing today? Ah, okay. Let's see who's with us. And I hope, again, if your mental health's not doing too well, I hope that if you're watching live, you can lean on the DAMFAM a little bit, as we often say on the show, right? Uh, it's not a marathon, it's a relay. So sometimes if you need to hand the baton over and let us run a leg while you rest for a bit, do that. That's okay. Take a rest. We'll be here when you get back. All right. Uh, let's see who's here. We have Kit Uncover the News saying morning. We have Kit Hyper T 007 saying bon dia gente. I went to online to listen to some stuff and I think I've got it now. Bom dia gente. There we go. Hopefully that's closer to what you're expecting, my good friend. We have Kit Elaine saying, "Good morning, everyone," and TGIF. We have Kit Tabby G here, who sent me the cutest image. Oh my God, this cutest little video. You know what? I was going to save it for palette cleanser, but I think I'm just going to open with it because it is just so damn adorable. Kits and Cubs, uh, this is me as a little wee one. Look at that little thing. Oh my God. What a cute little baby beaver. Trying to nibble on his own tail a little bit there. Yum, 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 yum. Isn't that good stuff there? Thank you so much, Kit Tabby G, for that one. That one made my day. Oh God, baby beavers are the cutest things. Oh my God. It's incredible. Ah, we have Who else do we have this morning with us? We have Kit Sharon, yes, who says 2 more sleeps before the big move. I hope everything goes well. If I remember correctly, Sharon is moving to Nova Scotia. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, on the way there. Who else do we have? Kits and Cubs in the chat. We have Kit Grace is with us saying good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Grace. Lovely to see you. We have Kit Wishful with us saying good morning as well. That's so good. We have Kit Saucy. Hello, dear one. So glad you're with us this morning. Good morning to you. We have Chris. Yay! Saying good morning. I did see your message come in. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I saw like the top line, and you're you're just so good for my ego. I will tell you that. Your happiness, it's a good thing. We have Kit Ibad with us saying, "Good morning, lovely people." Almost missed that. I actually skipped over you. I'm so sorry, but noticed I had. So there you go, saying my good mornings to you. So glad you can join us. Do we have anybody else with us? It might be a fit. Oh, Kit PNC Bio. Hey, hi, good morning. So nice to see you. Uh, and then, well, this is not a hello thing that I put up. There's already in a deep and engaged conversation with Kit Linda and other members of the family chat, of the DAMFAM chat here. Kit Linda M is with us, of course. Good morning to you. So nice to see you today. Who else do we have with us? Going through it, going through it, going through it. Already deep engaged in conversation. Nope. According to Hypertease at 007, I still haven't gotten it yet. Okay. Oh well. I'll keep working at it. I'll keep working at it. And hopefully I will get it one day. Ah. He's a polyglot. He'll get it eventually. And people in the chat, Donna Carol here, finding the little baby beaver totally adorable. I have to absolutely say, I have to say that I agree. Kit Linda, I'm saying, just going to put that on a louvre. We have Il today with us. Hey, we haven't seen you in a couple of days. Hope you are feeling very well today. Sending you lots of love. Thank you for joining us at the Beaver Lodge today. And I think that is everyone I got today. So, hey, a little later on Fridays. Usually there's more people on Fridays, but then again, it looks like it's going to be nice here. So, right? Maybe already packing and getting ready to go enjoy the cottage and all that good stuff. If that's what you're doing, then hey, more power to you. Or maybe other types of weekend plans. Who knows? It's Canada, summer in Canada. There is lots to do. Okay, Kits and Cups. A bit of a grab bag of a show for you today, to be honest. Tried to find a theme and going to try to make it, how things are going in Canada and the US with this trade war and maybe throw in a couple of other things. But that's basically you know the big drive here. There isn't I don't have a big story. It was a relatively slow news day yesterday, and I did see the chats about a certain type, I think from what I'm gathering, a certain type of episode that you would like, about some of the things that we're doing on our end uh, that maybe haven't got a lot of attention, or as much attention as it should have. So I am going to try and cobble that together over the weekend to have some of that for you next week. I've been having some ideas in my head about that. It's just that those types of shows are a little longer to put together because you have to go grab things from several different sources, and there's a lot of specific detail that I have to make sure that I get right when I do those things. So lots more notes to take. It becomes a much more note heavy show for me. So hopefully over the course of the weekend, I will have some time to put that together and have that type of show for you, Kits and Cubs, because there has been some stuff going on. As you know, there's been some visits to Mexico, and there is uh, conversations with other nations like Sweden and Finland that have been happening lately. Um, and and deals are being signed and things of the like. So, yes, I am going to try to cobble together an episode of things like that we have been doing over the past while, and how it is that we are positioning ourselves for that which is to come, with by building alliances and partnerships and all that type of stuff, and deepening the ones that we have, because we are doing some pretty interesting things, and they aren't getting a lot of attention at the moment. The attention is still on the big behemoth, and do we have a deal yet or not have a deal yet? And uh, beyond that, a deal has to be really big and spectacular, like the thing we did on defense with the EU, to get any to break through to the main headlines. But there is more, and there are other things that are very interesting and intriguing and strategic. So hopefully, like I said, I will be able to couple them together and then bring them to you early next week. It just requires a little more research. So I want to make sure I get all the details right if I'm going to do that. All right, kits and cubs. Um, how's it going? Oh, before we get into that, I forgot. For our friends on the East Coast, Hurricane Aaron is a couple of days ago was reported as moving closer to the American Eastern Seaboard. At that time, it had downgraded to a Category 2 storm, and forecasters didn't expect it to make landfall. But the outer edges of the storm are expected to bring high winds and storm surges to coastal communities. William Ray, who's the director of the North Carolina Emergency Management, says, if you are asked to evacuate, please do so before conditions deteriorate and roads become impassable. Do not drive around barricades. Do not drive through flooded waters. You cannot judge the depth or speed of floodwaters from inside your vehicle. At that point, beaches had been closed from Florida to New York State. At that time, Aaron was carrying sustained winds of 177 kilometers an hour. And that was as of 11 p.m. Wednesday night. Uh, Hurricane Aaron is expected to lash Canada's Atlantic provinces with high winds and rains starting today. Yay for the rain, because I'm sure it could be definitely used considering the wildfire action. But the wind, that's a little that's a little scarier. According to the New York Times, as of 2 hours ago, it says that Hurricane Aaron has weakened to a Category 1 as it moves away from the East Coast. So that might be a little bit better news with regard to any potential damage. And hopefully the rains will still come to help. But according to the New York Times here, said that in the States, water rescue teams and 200 National Guard troops have been positioned along the coast hours before the outer bands of Aaron are forecast to bring dangerous swells and potential heavy rain to the state before it turns towards the open sea. So yeah, that's about the only thing I see here with regard to that. Let's see if I can find something for you as it pertains to Canada. And there we go. So the latest data I have is from about 16 hours ago, which is still more recent than what I just delivered to you. And it's from Global News, and says that while Hurricane Aaron is not expected to come close to land in the Maritimes, it is still likely to play havoc on both land and sea in Nova Scotia. Global News meteorologist Ross Hull said that the hurricane's effects will be felt in the area today. Quote, even though Aaron is moving well to the south of the area, it is such a large storm that some impacts will be felt mainly from large ocean swells, rough surf, as well as rip currents from the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia. There is the potential for waves to reach 4 to 5 meters, especially over southwestern parts of Nova Scotia. He said that winds are also expected to be stronger along the coastline. Some gusty winds up to 70 kilometers an hour could also reach the coastline in the southwestern coast of Nova Scotia on Friday. Fire crews are racing against the clock to prepare for the hurricane's effects as they continue battling large wildfire raging in Annapolis Valley. Quote, the winds won't be as strong more Sorry, let's try this. Oh, yeah. The winds won't be as strong more inland where the Long Lake wildfire is in Annapolis County. However, winds will be picking up out of the northeast initially with some gusts of 40 to 50 kilometers an hour. Then, after the storm passes to the south, a change in wind direction, becoming a west northwest wind, but easing in intensity on Saturday. Winds of 50 kilometers an hour will certainly cause the fire to move or spread, Jim Rutherham, director of Fleet and Force Protection, told reporters on Thursday. Quote, we are expecting wind tomorrow. It's like how much rain we're going to get. We're going to have to wait till tomorrow till it comes, he said. For the past couple of days, provincial officials have reported that the fire has remained about 3,200 hectares in size, but they know Hurricane Erin could be an issue. They have a meteorologist and a fire growth modeler on staff who are keeping a tab on the fire and trying to plot its course. Quote, they are assessing the fuels, the weather, the topography, and doing their very best to try to map and model what this fire might do given the weather conditions, Scott Tingley, manager of Force Protection, said at a press conference on Wednesday. We also have a fire behavior analyst who's supporting the data collection right now at the fire site. You know, there are a lot of variables, but we've definitely got a very strong team that's working on providing the best intelligence to the team that is managing the fire. There are about 74 homes on the north end of the fire in West Dalhousie, which have been evacuated since last Saturday. Those fighting the blaze have been working to prevent the fire from getting at the structures. They have also been doubling down on those efforts with Hurricane Erin fast approaching. Quote, they've been using heavy equipment to build a fire break or fire guard out around the perimeter on the north side, Tingley said on Thursday. So that's meant to remove fuel from out in front of the fire, and they've been suppressing that active perimeter. It has been forecast that the wind will shift on Sunday, which would push the fire in a northerly direction. They're focusing on just really trying to make that as cold as they can ahead of these wind shifts in the weekend to mitigate as much as possible any potential spread that could result from the wind shifts, Tingley offered. So there you go, kids and cubs. A little bit of news on that. And like I said, hopefully the amount of rain that the storm will bring will be sufficient to combat the effects of increasing wind on that. Okay, now moving to the more economic stuff because I wanted to make sure I got that important information out first. Uh, let's start with Canada because inflation data came out recently, and we had alluded to it on yesterday's show. But let's talk about that a little uh, more profoundly and deeply. Let's explore that. So, according to Craig Lord of the Canadian Press, inflation cooled in July, thanks largely to relief at the gas pumps, but Statistics Canada said grocery and shelter costs were accelerating last month. So this is what I was saying when Pierre Poilievre, um, not giving any credit for the decrease in inflation, and then choosing to pick specifically the data on food, and he could have done housing as well, to make his case, which, in all fairness, um, even though it feeds Pierre's penchant to look at everything and find the negative and tell us how we suck, um, food and lodging is something that everybody needs. It's right down at the basics and the base of the pyramid of needs, and therefore, if inflation is going down, but the things you absolutely most need are still going up, especially if you have money concerns or you don't have a lot of money. Um, it's it's the dual tail, right, of inflation. Um, then it hits particularly hard. So while the annual rate of inflation fell to 1.7% in July, the agency said Tuesday, down from 1.9% in June, and just slightly below what economists were forecasting. Uh, Costs rose 3.4% at grocery stores. So food inflation is pretty much double uh, overall inflation. And that's up from 2.8% in June. So that's a pretty big jump, 0.6% in 1 month. Confectionery and coffee products saw big price jumps in July, which StatsCan said were tied to tough growing conditions in countries that produce cocoa and coffee beans. Prices for fresh grapes, meanwhile, were up nearly 30%, driving the overall cost for fresh fruit up 3.9% in July from 2.1% in June. So, of course, it all depends what it is that you are buying, uh, right? Not every product is affected the same way, depending on what's going on in the world. The agency also says prices for gasoline were down 16.1% year over year, thanks largely to the removal of the consumer carbon price. So that's still working its way through. It'll be there for a full year in the inflation numbers until we get back to the month at which it was removed. And then those numbers will probably go back again because these are year over year numbers comparing data from June and July of last year to this year. So these are numbers specifically for July that I'm talking about, unless I say otherwise here. Gas prices were also down 0.7% on a monthly basis following an increase in production from oil exporting countries and a ceasefire in the conflict between Israel and Iran. Shelter inflation sped up 3% last month from 2.9% in June, marking the first increase in that category since February 2024. Rent price growth picked up in July, particularly in Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador, and British Columbia. Lower mortgage costs are still moderating the overall increase in shelter inflation. Prices for natural gas, meanwhile, fell to a lesser degree than in June, thanks mostly to higher costs in Ontario. And the Bank of Canada will be parsing the inflation figures as it prepares for its next interest rate decision on September 17th. And here, when we're talking about the increase in inflation, when we're talking about food specifically, and how I mentioned that certain items are affected more than others, kits and cubs. There's a lovely graph here uh, that I'm trying to make bigger, but for some reason it is not cooperating. So hopefully it will be big enough if I show it to you. Uh, Here. You can see for yourself here, kits and cubs, that when they're talking about confectionery because of the price of chocolate, where the inflation rate is, and you can see here in 2025, it has really spiked up to 11.8%, which is the highest level that there has been for that since 2019. And then if we look at coffee, that's really, really, really high and that spiked up very quickly. Uh, it was inflation was down was negative 2.8% on coffee. Whoops, that's confectionery. This is a graph that it's hard. There we go. Let's see if we can get that. Nope, it's not working for me. Okay. What was below zero sometime between 2024 and 2025 late in the year and has now it spiked up to 14.2% in May and now is at 28.6%. So your coffee, a lot of the thing that a lot of people use every morning to get their day started, has climbed a lot over the last bit. And like I said, difficulty with growing conditions. Fortunately, we are not being hit with an additional 50% tariff on the coffee as our American friends are. Because, you know, Donald Trump and his trade war. So that's a good way to drive home to the citizens that inflation is really an issue and that your trade war isn't working is by increasing the cost of the beverage that a significant chunk of people drink pretty much every morning to get their day started and get themselves off to a good start. And if you remember, during the whole election, it was all about the price of eggs, right? Because woe be to those who get in the way of Americans and their love for tasty, cakey treats. You need eggs. Well, again, woe be to the person that gets in the way of Americans and most everybody and their morning cup of joe. So, yeah, these are the types of things that, you know, eventually will get the attention of the people and drive home the fact that they're not saving money and that these promises that Donald Trump has made are not actually coming true, and that maybe um, they were had and could increase pressure on him from the inside. There are other things, when the price of strawberries shoots up or the price of grapes shoots up. That's, I mean, it's bad, but it's not so bad because people can choose other fruits or that type of stuff. But coffee, eggs, things that people eat pretty much every day in one form or another, either eggs alone or eggs as part of a something else that it's in. When those start driving up the prices of things, that starts to matter. The central bank held its policy rate steady at 2.75% at the end of July. That's the Bank of Canada for their interest rate here. It says in the article as we keep going. BMO chief economist Doug Porter predicted in a note to clients on Tuesday that there weren't enough signs of easing in the price data to convince the Bank of Canada to cut interest rates next month. Quote, there were no big surprises in the July inflation report, but we probably need a downside surprise at this point to prompt the BOC off the sidelines, he said. StatsCan said the central bank's preferred measures of core inflation, which tend to strip out more volatile price changes, held steady at around 3% in July. But Porter points out that the 3-month core inflation readings now show an annualized rate of 2.4% for July, and if that more recent trend in core inflation is maintained and the economy remains soft, that will eventually set the stage for Bank of Canada cuts, Porter said. So again, maybe not at the next one, which a lot of people were hoping. A lot of people were hoping for some cuts in interest rates already in over the course of the summer, and they didn't happen. We had a few of them pretty quickly at the beginning of the year, and then they ceased for a while. And there was some talk of that rate going down from 2.75% to 2.25% by the end of this year at some point. And again, there's questions as to whether or not that will indeed happen, but that was the prediction. I've seen somewhere else the prediction of maybe only down to 2.5 by the end of the year, given how the economy's doing. With the baseline inflation number, of course, that we're saying here, we're seeing it below 2% for 3 months in a row. If you're just looking at that, that could give the bank it gives the bank room to cut to stimulate the economy because that number would indicate that inflation could be a little bit higher. But then again, when you look at the inflation on staples, food, and housing, um, that might mitigate that number in the eyes and in the estimation of some of the governors on the board. With regard to that as well, kits and cubs, um, there has been some reports from, I think it appeared in Bloomberg. I'm going to double check that. Yes, it did appear in Bloomberg that some Bank of Canada governors are wondering if the central bank has already cut its rate enough. So, as we're at the beginning of the year, we were looking at cutting interest rates very enthusiastically, and yeah, for sure, we're going to get to 2.25, and we're just going to cut away, and it needs it, and that will happen for sure. Now people expressing some doubt up to 2.5, and other people expressing doubt as to whether or not more cuts are needed at all. This is from August 13th. Newly released documents show some members of the Bank of Canada were wondering last month whether the central bank's benchmark interest rate is already low enough to support the Canadian economy through U.S. tariffs. The Bank of Canada on Wednesday released the summary of deliberations from the meetings leading up to its decision on July 30th to hold the policy rate steady at 2.75%. Those minutes show the central bank's governing council was fixed on how U.S. tariffs and the global trade rewiring were affecting inflation and the wider Canadian economy. The summary of deliberations show that in addition to a rate hold, monetary policy makers considered a quarter-point cut at the July meeting. The central bank's decision arrived just a couple of days before U.S. President Donald Trump ratcheted base tariffs on Canada up to 35% while maintaining an exemption for goods compliant with CUSMA. Despite the ongoing uncertainty, monetary policymakers noted that there were some signs of economic resilience heading into the rate decision. The deliberations show some members wondered if the Bank of Canada had already provided, quote, sufficient support to guide the economy through its tariff transition. The central bank cut its policy rate 7 consecutive times from June 2024 to March of this year in a bid to boost the economy as inflation showed signs of coming back under control. Economists say much of the impact for a monetary policy decision tends to take effect a year or more after the move, so many of those rate cuts are just now starting to stimulate the economy. In that vein, the Bank of Canada Governing Council wondered whether cutting rates now only for the economy to recover on its own would only end up fueling inflation down the road. Quote, given the lagged effects of monetary policy, there was a risk that further easing might take effect only as demand was recovering, which could also add to price pressures, the summary read. Some forecasters, including RBC, have no further interest rate cuts in their base case outlooks. Others on the Bank of Canada's Governing Council felt that signs of slack emerging in the economy could warrant additional cuts, particularly if the labor market started showing more weakness. If incoming data showed inflation wasn't straying too far from the central bank's target of 2%, there could be a need for a lower policy rate, those members argued in deliberations. Randall Bartlett, deputy chief economist at Desjardins, said in an interview that the fact that the central bank considered a rate cut at its most recent meeting suggests the governing council is leaning towards further easing. Desjardins expects the central bank will be in a position to lower its policy rate at its next meeting in September, with the possibility for additional cuts later in the year. Bartlett said the apparent division among governing council just points to the lack of clarity among economic data about whether the economy needs a boost or not amid tariffs. Quote, there's just so much uncertainty where we are right now that it is really quite challenging to get a sense of what is the optimal monetary policy or level of interest rates to support the economy, he said. Alongside the rate decision, the Bank of Canada issued 3 scenarios for how the U.S. tariff situation could evolve: one that saw the status quo persist, one that saw de escalation in trade restrictions, and another that showed tariffs ramp up. The Governing Council noted that none of those scenarios showed, quote, a sharp rise in inflation, and recent surveys of consumers and businesses suggested inflation expectations remain well anchored. Quote, if inflation allows the Bank of Canada to turn its attention towards a weakening economy, there is a bit of a bias to provide a little more stimulus, Bartlett said. Many policymakers said in deliberations that the impact of tariffs on consumer prices appeared to be modest so far, but those effects were only just starting to show up in the data. Quote, members judged the risks to inflation to be elevated given evident pressures on underlying inflation and the uncertainty around the impacts that tariffs and trade disruptions could have on Canada's economy over time, the summary read. The Bank of Canada will get a fresh look of inflation figures for July, which just came out, and August ahead of its September 17th interest rate decision. So nothing coming before September 17th, which is 2 days after the House will resume sitting. So we'll bet that we'll see Skippy rising in the House, regardless of the results, saying how it's so terrible, whatever is happening with interest rates. Doug Ford, a couple weeks ago, was outright campaigning vocally, similar to Trump was doing, saying that we need lower interest rates. It's like monetary policy is not your thing, dude. You maybe you should focus on trying to get some houses built. Because he doesn't seem to be doing well with regard to that. According to the data, Nathaniel Orphan, who was a guest on our show a while ago, had a tweet out and said, Ontario housing starts are down 25% in 2025. What the hell is Doug Ford doing? Somehow the entire country is up 4% in spite of our province's failures. And yeah, there's some data here I can show you with regard to that here. So Newfoundland and Labrador housing starts are up 29%. PEI is even. Nova Scotia up 16%, New Brunswick up 20%, Atlantic Canada as a whole up 16%. Up in Quebec, it's up 38%, Manitoba up 3%, Saskatchewan up 50%, Alberta up 25%, for the prairies as the whole up 24%, BC's down as -4%, and Ontario, as you can see here, minus 25%. Ford is just not getting it done, and considering how much levy seems to have for developers, this is a pretty interesting data here. Let's see if I can, this graph here, there we go. Housing starts in Canada, all areas. This is from I think CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Um, so I'm not sure what SAAR. I'm going to have to look at that up in this article here. But this blue line here shows housing starts, and this here is the housing starts, the red line, trend line, 6-month moving average. And so we have a 263,088 housing starts for the 6-month moving average. According here, this is August 18th from Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. The 6-month trend in housing starts increased 3.7% in July, so 263,088 units, like I just mentioned, according to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. The trend measure is a 6-month moving average of the seasonally adjusted annual rate. That's the SAAR of total housing starts for all areas in Canada. So the seasonally adjusted rate is 294,085 starts, but the 6-month trend is 263,000. So the 6-month trend is running below the seasonally adjusted rate. Actual housing starts were up 4% year over year in centers with a population of 10,000 or greater, with 23,464 units recorded in July compared to 22,610 in July 2024. The year-to-date total was 137,875, up 4% from the same period in 2024. The total, so I will just take this screen off here. There we go, kids and cubs. And of course, there it is. The total monthly seasonally adjusted annual rate of housing starts for all areas in Canada was up 4% in July compared to June. Through the first 7 months of the year, actual housing starts have remained above 2024 levels, primarily driven by increased multi-unit starts in the prairie provinces and Quebec. These persistently elevated national results are reflective of investment decisions made months ago or even years ago, highlighting the influence of previous market conditions and builder sentiment on current construction trends, said Tanya Burasa Okawa, CMHC's deputy chief economist. Let's see, what else do we have here? And yes, the rest is just some information about the CMHC at the end of the press release there. So, oh, there we go. Some additional data here. Rural starts monthly seasonally adjusted rate estimate was 20,467 units. Among Canada's big three cities, Vancouver recorded a 24% increase in starts this month, driven by higher multi-unit starts. And I believe rents in Vancouver have declined a little bit. I think I saw some data about that a few weeks ago. Montreal posted a 212% year over year increase in actual housing starts, driven by significantly higher multi unit starts. A decrease in multi unit and single detached starts drove the 69% year over year decrease in Toronto's housing starts compared to July 2024. So Vancouver, 24% increase, Montreal, 212% year over year increase, and Toronto, a negative 69% year over year number. So a decrease. Yeah. So Doug Ford not actually getting it done. That's perhaps why he's been begging for the bank to cut interest rates to try and stimulate housing in the province of Ontario, because he doesn't seem to be able to do it. So now he's trying to deflect the blame on the Bank of Canada for his inability to actually get it done. So that explains that. Okay, moving on. Uh, in Canada as well, Um, the inflation numbers, since we're talking about them there, just before we get away from those were Canada's numbers. Of course, we talked about the numbers in the United States recently, which have also gone up, and numbers for the UK also came in above expectations in July. Consumer inflation in July was up 3.8%, up from 3.6%, which was well above what the Bank of England is seeking at 2%. Um, yes. We are doing better, significantly better than the United States and the UK at the moment on the overall number, at least. Of course, kids and cubs, as you mentioned, food and shelter, however, numbers are still stubbornly high. Uh, in Canada, according to Equifax, and this is August 18th, and this is also reported in the Canadian press, it says that there's a deepening divide among consumers as the rate of missed credit card payments has dipped, according to a new Equifax Canada report. 1.4 million Canadians missed a credit payment in the second quarter. While that's up by 118,000 compared with the same time last year, it's down slightly from the first quarter. Rebecca Oakes, Vice President of Advanced Analytics at Equifax Canada, said it's a bit of good news to see the delinquency rate leveling off. Quote, we're starting to finally see that stabilize a little bit. The less good news, though, is that below that high level number, we're still seeing this financial gap widening for some groups of consumers, she added, particularly between homeowners and non homeowners. About 1 in 19 Canadians without a mortgage missed at least one credit payment, compared with 1 in 37 homeowners, the report said. Total consumer debt rose 3.1% year over year to 2.58 trillion, Equifax said, while average non-mortgage debt per consumer increased to $22,147. Oakes said various factors, including high unemployment and economic uncertainty amplified by trade disruptions, have made it harder for many Canadians to keep up with day-to-day expenses. Consumers under the age of 36 are being hit the hardest, the report suggests. Millennials and Gen Z saw their average non-mortgage debt rise 2% to 14,304 from a year ago. The group's 90-plus days non-mortgage balance delinquency rate also rose to 2.35%, which is a 19.7% jump year over year. The affordability crisis seems to be hitting younger consumers the hardest, Oakes said. Between rising costs, employment uncertainty, and limited access to affordable credit, many are struggling just to stay afloat. Also, many homeowners who locked in lower mortgage rates during the height of the pandemic could see their payments rise upon renewal. Quote, payment levels are going up for many consumers when they're renewing their mortgage, and when that is a little bit too much, the first place you tend to see that is on missed payments on things like credit cards. Ontario remained the hotspot for financial distress in the second quarter. The 90-plus day delinquency rate was 1.75%, which is 15.2 basis points higher than the national average. The rates of missed payments were even higher in the city of Toronto and the surrounding area, which are exposed to the tariff-hit auto and steel sectors. However, Oakes said the financial gap between homeowners versus non-homeowners in Ontario peaked last year and has started to come down. Another credit tracking agency, TransUnion, released its second quarter consumer credit report last week. It said consumer debt reached 2.52 trillion in the second quarter, up 4.4% year over year. Quote, subprime consumers are more likely to feel the impact of higher costs of living and may choose to take on additional debt, such as credit card balances, to help cover the costs of goods and services, Matthew Fabian, Director of Financial Services Research and Consulting at TransUnion Canada, said in a statement. For other risk tiers of borrowers, their card balance growth has been less than the rate of inflation, indicating that these consumers are less reliant on credit cards to maintain purchasing power. So those are that's from reports from the Canadian Press, first published on August 18th. So again, right, the price of housing, the price of shelter going up inflation-wise, but in certain cities, due to increased building, rates have been going down because you're taking care of the supply side, which makes less demand for the units, which then leads to lower prices. So that's been happening. So if you put them together, but then you got Toronto where the building isn't happening, so you're not getting that effect as much as you are getting in Vancouver in terms of lowering the cost of rents specifically. And as we had mentioned in other data, if we're looking at housing construction in Canada, the amount of construction going on in the rental space, purpose or purpose or purpose built for rental, um, that is going up significantly in Canada, where it had pretty much dried up for the longest time. So, due to various incentives or whatnot, there is more construction being done in that particular sector of the market at the moment. So, again, these are decisions that we made, as the story says, right? Some while ago under Trudeau, that are starting to materialize and yield the results that had been hoped for at that time. Of course, Mark Carney ran on a promise to significantly increase the amount of construction that will be taking place, of course, using Canadian materials to do that. And of course, with that, I think it's the Build Canada Homes program that he is talking about. And on that front, big progress. Progress is continuing on that front in order to create the agency that will definitely be taking care of that. Some people are wondering if the agency um, might be trying to do too much, if its mandate might be too large, but uh, which is it is a legitimate question to ask, but at the moment, that's it's a speculative question, right? You have to get the thing built and then see how it works. But about 3 days ago, uh, the Build Canada Homes Market Sounding Guide was released, and so this new federal agency that will be responsible for building affordable homes, providing financing to affordable home builders, and catalyzing a more productive home building industry, is looking to be set up by sometime in September, if my memory serves correctly here. And it's going to bring together key partners from across the housing ecosystem to get homes built by addressing barriers, reducing risk, and helping to navigate the process of building non-market housing. The Market Sounding Guide that was released 3 days ago sets out an initial vision for Build Canada Homes, including its objectives, functions, instruments, investment approach, and implementation. And the intent is to solicit feedback on the proposed approach outlined into here to inform Build Canada's Homes final design. All content, including proposed design elements, is subject to change based on ongoing input and evolving discussions. So yes, we're out here at the moment. That guide is that's been issued is going to serve for consultations in order to be able to get this particular agency off the ground. So things have been progressing on that front, and it's good to see because it hasn't been getting a lot of attention. Again, as we've been dealing with more headline grabbing issues. But it's nice to know that this specific initiative is making its way through. Also, on the front of trade, when it comes from Canada, Minister of Energy, Natural Resources of Canada, Tim Hodgson, who is someone that Mark Carney wanted to bring in to government because he's worked very closely with him um, in the past and seems to trust him a lot. Um, is basically on the record stating that he's hopeful that their first batch of major project announcements will start this fall. So, according to iPolitics here, and this came out just yesterday. So also from the Canadian press, but published in iPolitics, Natural Resources Minister Tim Hodgson says he's hopeful that the government will start announcing major infrastructure project approvals in the fall. As you know, PP in his press conference that we were talking about yesterday was saying, it's been this time yet no projects have been announced. Well, yes, because we said that there was going to be a project office that was going to be launched in September and that it was up to the premiers to bring the projects and find the proponents. So, according to the federal minister here, it seems that there's reason to hope that there will be some major infrastructure projects approved uh, in the fall. Now, you have to understand, kits and cubs, a lot of these projects that are going to be proposed, a lot of them are not necessarily new. Some of these are projects that people have been working on for a long time, and they're near the shovel ready phase. So a lot of them will be approved first in order to have some wins to point to. And then, the more ambitious ones like the pipelines that Danielle Smith wants, for which there isn't a route and there isn't a proponent and all that, might be to come. So expect that the first batch of projects are going to be announced, and that there probably won't be the announcement of a pipeline. And then Pierre is going to run all around the media saying, see, we failed, we failed, we failed, we're terrible, we suck. Probably not. Uh, if PR wise, if they are smart, if there's anything to do with these types of pipelines, they might, if they can announce some type of funding for a study or something, that might help. Or if they can announce a project on something that would sort of prepare the terrain. So anything on an energy corridor at some place on which a pipeline could run. Daniel Smith talked a lot about the Pathways project for carbon capture and storage. If there was something in that area that was ready to go a little more earlier in order to prepare the terrain for a proponent, should one come along, that Daniel Smith will bring, those could go some way to quell the criticism. Um, but it's going to come, because there's very, very small likelihood that a pipeline will be announced in this first batch. That's something that will take slightly more time to be able to review, because there has to be some type of environmental assessment. And again, no project is proposed, right? You can't approve a project that doesn't exist yet. So that won't matter to Pierre, though. Right? It's going to be one of those things like Kyle Seaback was saying, like this, gee, we could, instead of sending the Air Canada workers back, the Liberal government should work in Parliament with us to pass this type of legislation that guarantees that people will get paid for their work. Okay, yeah, sure, that's great, but we can't start doing that until September 15th. So thank you for the empty criticism and the virtue signaling there, and making it look like you care and you're doing something, but you're not. Right? So this it might be that same type of criticism coming from Pierre. I can't believe there's not a pipeline yet. Well, nobody proposed one. How's that my fault? Right? In an interview with the Canadian Press, Hodgson says the federal government has been busy consulting with stakeholders over the summer and has been quietly getting a new major projects office set up to deal with companies hoping to build large-scale projects. Parliament's fall sitting, ooh, a little bit of dry beaver there. Parliament's fall sitting is scheduled to run from September 15th to December 12th, but Hodgson says Prime Minister Mark Carney, quote, doesn't like sitting around, and that the government intends to move quickly. He says the federal government, quote, would prefer sooner rather than later, and insists that, quote, it will be in the fall that announcements will start happening. It's been 7 weeks since the Liberal government rushed Bill C5, the Building Canada Act, through Parliament in June, which lets Ottawa quickly approve major projects it considers to be in the national interest. Carney has said the office that will deal with these large-scale industrial projects should be stood up and fully running by Labor Day, though the government has so far made few details about this new office public. So, some optimism being expressed by the minister. Minister also had an announcement earlier this week. Yes, it was about an announcement on innovation in the nuclear center made at Bruce Power over the course of the week. So just going to take a look at that as well for you kits and cubs, because making sure that our energy is well taken care of is something. But in this particular case, the announcement doesn't have to do with increasing our level. Well, maybe it does, but it's not the primary not the primary thing being announced here. Um, According to the Government of Canada's website, the Government of Canada is investing in Canada's nuclear, biomanufacturing, and life science sectors to strengthen Canada's position as a global leader in nuclear medicine innovation. These investments are bolstering domestic supply chains to ensure Canadians have access to vital diagnostics and therapeutic treatments. The Honorable Tim Hodgson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, on behalf of the Honorable Mélanie Joly, Minister of Industry and Minister responsible for Canada Economic Development for Quebec regions, announced the next phase of an ambitious medical isotope production project at the Bruce Power Nuclear Plant facility in Tiverton, Ontario. The next phase will see the installation of a second isotope production system, IPS, at Bruce Power's CANDU Unit 6 reactor, which will allow for a significant increase in the plant's ability to produce the medical isotope lutetium-177 used in targeted cancer therapies. The project is receiving funding through the Canadian Medical Isotope Ecosystem, which was established in 2023 with an investment of up to $35 million over 5 years through the Government of Canada's Strategic Innovation Fund, with the goal of spurring the development and commercialization of medical isotopes and radiopharmaceuticals in Canada. The Canadian Medical Isotope Ecosystem directs project funding that supports collaborative research and development initiatives focused on medical isotopes with the goal of creating and commercializing innovative treatments in the healthcare sector while also securing the domestic production of medical isotopes. So again, this project is one of the ways we read you some articles at some point about how Trudeau was doing a lot to diversify the economy in many ways. This was one via this Canada Strategic Innovation Fund established in 2023. This $35 million investment was put into this. And now we're looking again in this particular field where Canada is a leader. Several years ago, I believe one of the reactors had to be shut down for some repairs or some maintenance, and that was going to prevent the production of these medical isotopes. And there was some great consternation, not only in Canada but around the world, because we were supplying them. That's because there would be much less supply, and that we need to be rationed for a while. And I think there was Lisa Raitt, again, I believe the minister at the time, saying something about uh, isotopes uh, being sexy or something of the sort. And then, yes, Raitt called the isotope crisis sexy and criticized the minister at the time, uh, Leona Aglukak, uh, criticized her ability, well, expressed doubt about her ability to address the issue. Um, and according to the article here, it said Raitt, uh, somebody was talking to Lisa Raitt and said that the isotope issue was confusing to a lot of people. But it's sexy. Radioactive leaks, cancer, said Raitt at the time. And then, of course, um, she had to apologize for that 2 days later. She emotionally uh, apparently had to say sorry. As you can see, it's a very personal issue for me, and it's one that I don't really take lightly, she said. It's clear that these remarks have been interpreted that way, so I want to offer a clear apology to anyone who has been offended by what I have said. Um, so, yeah, the isotopes are a big deal, and this additional investment is going to make it so that I believe that we have two facilities producing them, which also guarantees the security of the supply should one have to go down for repairs. Um, what else does it say here with it? It says since March 2020, the government has invested more than $2.5 billion in 43 projects in the biomanufacturing, vaccine, and therapeutics ecosystem. The Government of Canada's support for the Canadian medical isotope ecosystem is a critical aspect of this investment, bolstering Canada's historical leadership in medical isotope production. The market for medical isotopes worldwide is increasing and expected to reach up to $33 billion US by 2031. The project expansion announced today helps to ensure that Canada will maintain a steady domestic supply, as well as sustain and expand export capabilities to global markets. With its innovative IPS technology, Bruce Power is the first commercial nuclear reactor in the world to produce lutetium-177, supplying large quantities of life-saving medical isotopes while simultaneously generating safe, clean, and reliable electricity. This helps advance Canada's role as both an energy and a medical isotope superpower. The Government of Canada is proud to partner with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and Bruce Power to produce, advance, and market new medical isotopes in support of the global fight against cancer. The project contributes significantly to reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation territory. And Melanie Joly, the Minister of Industry and Minister responsible for Canada Economic Development, is quoted as saying, medical isotopes are a powerful tool in the diagnosis and treatment of cancer. Through the government's investment in the CMIE, as well as its partnership with Bruce Power and the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, we are ensuring that Canadians have access to critical medical technology. This next phase of Bruce Power's capacity expansion strengthens Canada's role as a global leader in medical isotope production while enhancing the quality of care available to every Canadian. So there you go. So important news in that, again, doesn't necessarily get front page news, but these are the areas in which we need to change our economy and and diversify is what I meant to say. And in order to orient ourselves towards the economy of the future, the more knowledge-based economy, and do something other than pulling stuff out of the ground and putting it into something that we can ship it somewhere, right? So these are a lot of the changes that, like I said, Justin Trudeau at the time was putting in place, and now we are now starting to see some of the benefits and the results of that. All right, so that's a little bit on the Canada side, all the stuff that's going on here. Uh, but these issues are also hitting the United States, right? Our strategy with regard to wanting a deal at the beginning used to be to get a deal as quickly as possible, a little bit like the EU has done, which I think they have taken another step into cementing that so called deal that they have made with the United States to lock in their tariffs at the rate that they've gotten them in at the moment. Again, that's not a final deal, but it seems that the EU wants to take that deal, those broad outlines, and at least run with it for now, to have whatever degree of stability and predictability they can have for how long or however long it's going to exist with Donald Trump. But for our part, um, we realized at some point that getting a deal quickly to provide the stability that the markets want is not going to be an option that Donald Trump is going to make available. So, therefore, we had to do other things. And now our strategy is to bide our time for the impacts of what Trump repeatedly punching the United States in the face to take hold and pressure to squeeze him from the inside, basically for the calls to start coming from inside the house. Well, Donald Trump said that he pretty much wants to decimate our auto sector because he doesn't need Canadian cars. Well, it's doing a number on the US auto sector too. On August 10th, according to Yahoo Finance here, the auto sector is taking President Trump's tariffs on the chin. Toyota, the world's largest automaker, was the latest to reveal the impact it's seeing from tariffs in its earnings on Thursday morning, with slightly over $3 billion wiped from its fiscal first quarter operating income. With Toyota's results in, the cumulative tariff hit from the largest automakers following the end of June quarter stands at around $11.7 billion per automaker's financial disclosures. 11 billion in one quarter. Yes. Toyota had the largest exposure, followed by rivals like Volkswagen, GM, Ford, Honda, and others. China's top automakers were excluded from the list as they do not operate in the United States. And there's a graph here of how tariffs are impacting automakers. And this is financial impacts of the new tariffs cited by major automakers for the quarter ended June 2025. And I'm just going to show this to you because some companies are definitely more effective. So very much affected, 3 billion in one quarter here. So I'm guessing that 11 billion is maybe annualized for the year that I mentioned. So 3 billion for the quarter. Volkswagen about half that at 1.5 billion. General Motors 1.1 billion, and that's we're talking this one. We're not the first two are foreign automakers, but General Motors isn't. And then you see all the other ones at under a billion, but still, Honda, Ford, BMW, Hyundai, Kia, Subaru, Mazda, Nissan, Mercedes, and Stellantis at the bottom of the list, the least affected at the moment with regard to that. But that's some pretty big impacts there happening in the United States. Automakers, including Toyota and Honda, are not only seeing imports from their home market of Japan hit with tariffs of 15%, they're also dealing with higher overall auto sector tariffs of 25%, impacting operations from countries like Canada and Mexico. This also goes for the big three, Ford, GM, and Stellantis, which have significant operations with US, Mexico, Canada agreement partners. Even Tesla, which makes all of its vehicles in the United States, had a significant tariff impact from duties on auto parts like batteries for EVs. Quote, the cost of tariffs increased around $300 million, with approximately two-thirds of that impact in the automotive and less in energy. However, given the latency in manufacturing and sales, the full impacts will come through in the following quarters, Tesla CFO Vaibhav Taneja said on the company's earnings call in July 23rd. The knee-jerk reaction for automakers would be to raise prices while eventually moving towards more U.S. production, but neither option is an easy fix to avoid tariffs. Investment for new assembly plants is considerable and requires a larger rationale than a one-term presidential administration, Auto Forecast Solutions auto manufacturing expert Sam Fiorani said. Quote, building a new factory requires 3 to 5 years of planning and likely 1 or 2 billion in investments. Even retooling an existing factory will need around $500 million. So when Trump is going around saying that there's more companies and plants being built than ever before, that's a lie. Fiorani noted that the financial outlays for factory spending have to be weighted against the cost of paying tariffs over the next 3 years. Most high-volume models, which typically have lower profit margins like the Nissan Rogue, are already built in the U.S. Moving some high-volume vehicles that are built at scale in a foreign location like the Chevrolet Equinox may not make sense to move to the U.S. On the flip side, building certain low-volume, high-profit vehicles in the U.S. wouldn't make economic sense either. For its part, GM said it will spend $4 billion to bring more truck and SUV production to the U.S. GM said it will add production of the gas-powered Chevrolet Blazer and Chevrolet Equinox currently made in Mexico to the U.S. starting in 2027. GM will also begin making gas-powered full-size SUVs like the Chevrolet Tahoe and light-duty pickups like the Silverado at its plant in Orion, Michigan. It will also shift EV production from that plant to the Factory Zero Michigan plant, which produces only EVs. Honda said this week it is considering adding a third shift to its U.S. production facilities to blunt the effect of tariffs. Though Honda didn't say which models would be affected, it had reportedly considered moving Civic sedan production from Canada to the U.S., which Honda denied. Adding a third shift would enable the automaker to limit tariff exposure and avoid the cost of constructing a new factory or adding tooling for a new production line somewhere else. But Honda isn't out of the woods either. CFRA's Garrett Nelson believes its margins will remain deeply negative due to unabsorbed EV transition costs and structural tariff headwinds, which Nelson wrote could worsen if Trump's tariff policies ramp up again. Even Tesla is looking to onshore some of its parts production. Tesla Vice President of Engineering Lars Moravi said during the Q2 earnings call that Tesla's use of LFP batteries from China was a major source of tariffs and that the company's first LFP battery factory would be coming online by the end of the year to defray some of those costs. The other alternative to evading the margin-eating costs of tariffs would be to pass those costs to buyers. Quote, in the short term, automakers did carry the costs and it showed up in the second quarter financial reports, Fiorani said, adding that at some point something has to give with prices rising. While it will vary depending on the profit margin on luxury models versus the need to be price competitive on the lower ends, consumers of all vehicles, imported or not, will find prices going up starting this year, starting this fall, and increasing more next year. So yeah, this is impacting the United States pretty intensely, as well as Canada. Costs are going up also for restaurants in the service industry in the United States pretty extensively as a result of these tariffs because, of course, you're importing a lot of food. And the United States doesn't grow absolutely everything that it eats. So that business sector is being impacted, and for some reason, I do not know why. Um, the link will not cooperate with me. There we go. ah, According to this article here from CNN, surging beef prices as an example, specifically hamburger meat on the wholesale level, those prices were up nearly 21% in July compared to the same month 10 years ago, federal data shows, and passing the buck to consumers may not be the best solution. The prices of other staples like coffee, as we mentioned, eggs, and cocoa have also ratcheted higher at various points in the year. In June, food costs overall were up 21% compared to the same month 4 years earlier, according to the Producer Price Index, which tracks prices that businesses, including restaurants, pay their suppliers. The rise in food costs outpaced the 17.5% increase in wholesale prices across the board during the same period. And this is why affordability remains an issue, because numbers are relatively similar in Canada if we're looking for at 4 year data. Um, with tariffs, there might be a bigger impact in the United States than in Canada at the moment. But if we're looking at 4 years, that includes significant data than just what Trump has been doing lately. And I would venture that things are somewhat similar. Uh, Typically, restaurants have a profit margin of around 3 to 5%. So if food is going up, that you need to serve people is going up 21%, and you can't raise prices that much. You're starting to cut into that 3 to 5% very quickly. And again, that affects abilities to invest in your restaurant in order to improve it, uh, in hiring staff and being able to give staff raises and all that kind of stuff, which then if you're not able to give them raises to meet the cost of living, increase the odds that they might go look elsewhere. And then you have to spend more money on recruiting and human resources and hiring and all that kind of stuff. So it's a loop that feeds each other after a while, and it's not in a positive way. Um, and of course, all of these tariffs are coming into effect in the United States uh, in such a way that are hitting uh, the economy uh, at what's the term for it? They're hitting the economy in such a way uh, that hasn't been seen since the Great Depression. So we're going back a while now. Um, and that's not particularly a model that a lot of people would like to follow. It's definitely not a situation that people would like to recreate, but it does seem that is indeed the case over here. According to CNN again, Elizabeth Buchwald and John Tofigi and Aditi Sangal, Trump's tariffs kick in at the highest rates since the Great Depression, and that is not that's like I said, not helpful to anyone. But again, you have to remember for Donald Trump, the goal is to say that the United States is making so much money, and because of his huge tax cut to the rich, he needs to finance that somehow so that the numbers that come out show that not all of that money was just taken, right? He's trying to offset it somehow so that the overall impact doesn't appear so bad. But it is bad. So you can't. There's only so much masking that you can do that you can do before it starts to show. That's a little similar to what Russia's been doing with the costs of the war over there. There's only so much masking it can do before the cracks start to show, and that the denial that has been given, public denials, uh, stop to be being believed because people go to the store and they see what things cost. They see their quality of life going down. According to Global, Aries Rabinovich on August 18th, the trade war is starting to impact economies across the globe, with recent U.S. data now showing consumer sentiments are reaching lows not seen since the Great Recession. Because one of the things that is true is that the economy does care about your feelings, right? That's why we keep on measuring market sentiment. That's raising questions about whether Canada could soon start feeling the ripple effects. Quote, there has been more concern about momentum in US labor markets and not just in consumer perceptions of labor markets. You are starting to see cracks in some of the underlying details as well, says Assistant Chief Economist Nathan Jansen at the Royal Bank of Canada. Employment is still declining in the US, especially in the manufacturing sector, and it's a trend that has been in place for a while. The trade uncertainty does not appear to have helped, it's accelerated some of the risks. The University of Michigan released the findings of its latest survey of consumers on August 15th, which gauges the attitude of average consumers across the continental US. The report, conducted during May, June, and July of 2025, shows how the current trade war sparked by US President Donald Trump's tariff policies has led to a negative outlook for the job market among Americans. In the study, 60% of consumers polled said that they expect unemployment in the US to get worse in the year ahead, which compares to 32% in 2022 until November 2024, and the worst reading since the Great Recession. There has been more concern about momentum in the US labor markets even just in recent weeks. There was a significant downside surprise in US payroll employment growth reported for July, and some significant downward revisions that made prior month's labor market data look not as strong as it did before, said Jansen. We, Royal Bank economists, don't expect to see a resurgence in job growth over the next year and still expect U.S. economic growth to slow, and with underperformance in some of these trade sensitive sectors. The survey data also shows that U.S. consumers may have been changing their spending habits out of concern for how tariffs would impact the economy, including by causing prices to spike. 24% of consumers polled said they expect to spend as usual in the year ahead on big ticket items like a car, for instance, and that's down from 36% in 2022 from August to October. The report also describes the pattern where if consumers show less optimism for the economy and job market, then they will also adjust their spending habits. On the Canadian side of the border, there are some similarities to the US in terms of how the economy may respond to pressures from the trade war, but the Canadian economy may be in a somewhat better position. The latest report on employment from Statistics Canada for the month of July showed the unemployment rate was unchanged at 6.9%, with most job losses seen in youth summer positions, while manufacturing saw a second straight positive month of growth. Quote, we do think that we're close to peak in the Canadian unemployment rate. There are some advantages that Canada has. The Bank of Canada cut interest rates more than a lot of the central banks last year, and it does look increasingly like we're going to have some significant fiscal stimulus from federal government spending. It takes some time for that spending to get shovels in the ground on new projects, but into the end of this year and into next year, that is kind of a tailwind for economic growth in Canada to help push against some of the headwinds from trade disruptions. The Bank of Canada gradually cut its key policy rate from 5% in 2023 to 2.75% in March of 2025, and hasn't changed interest rates since, citing the uncertainty of the tariffs and the trade war. Following the July meeting, the Bank of Canada left interest rates unchanged again, and its governor, Tiff Macklem, spoke after the announcement, saying, quote, there is a sense that U.S. policy may well remain unpredictable. There is a sense that it's going to be hard to restore trust. So yes, I think some level of uncertainty will continue. So there we go. Um, what else does this say here? Spending has remained relatively firm, demand has remained relatively firm, and we're seeing some of that flow through into consumer price growth as well. So that's where it's a bit of a double-edged sword, said Jansen, who explains how when spending and demand are strong, that can lead to higher prices and be reflected in a higher inflation report. He goes on to say that one of the reasons consumers have been feeling more confident in Canada is because the labor market has shown strength compared to the US. Quote, it's tied to a better Canadian consumer and overall economic demand backdrop that was feared in the spring. We should see that on Friday as well with the retail sales numbers, says Jansen. Not a super strong economy, but relative to where it looked like we could have been back in the spring, it's substantially less bad than feared. So there you go. And since we've come back to Canada with this article, let's finish off with stuff having to do with canola kits and cubs, because as you know, that has been a big issue for us. China has been trying to put the squeeze to us because we followed the United States' lead in applying 100% tariffs to EVs coming from China, even though not many are already sold here already, if at all. But right, I'm sure China would like to enter our market, and we just made that impossible when we did that. So China then came ahead and then put some tariffs on us. So I believe we had 100% tariffs already on canola oil and meal, and then 76% tariffs were announced, levies were announced recently on canola seed. And basically, these tariffs have pretty much shut Canadian producers out of their second largest market. Um, there has been some things happening quietly in the background, and some of them are starting to come to a head. Mark Carney, and this is according to Stephanie Levitz of the Globe and Mail. Mark Carney said discussions are underway on supports for farmers facing a major setback after China hiked tariffs on canola products this week. The Prime Minister made the comments after coming under criticism from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre for not publicly addressing the issue sooner. Earlier Thursday, Mr. Poilievre accused Mr. Carney of showing weak leadership for not speaking out about Beijing's increased tariffs since they were announced on Tuesday. Quote, I had my team check his Twitter account. He hasn't tweeted a single thing about canola, yet he's been able to tweet about International Cat Day, so isn't that nice? Mr. Poilievre told reporters in Saskatchewan on Thursday morning. Yeah, again, Pierre being his usual charming self. We need a prime minister who will actually stand up for all Canadians, including and especially our prairie producers. On Tuesday, Beijing had announced 75.8% duties on Canadian canola seed, which followed the imposition of 100% tariffs on canola oil and meal in March. The move means all Canadian canola products are officially barred from China, as I just mentioned. Later Thursday, Mr. Carney did post on social media about the dispute, calling the duties unjustified and saying that he's spoken to Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe about the issue. Quote, Premier Moe and I focused on a series of measures to support hardworking farmers who provide world-class food to Canadians and our trading partners throughout the world, Mr. Carney's post said. He said he and the Premier agreed to engage with industry leaders in the near term to discuss options. The canola industry wants Ottawa to limit imports of used vegetable oils to shore up domestic demand, but Mr. Carney's statement did not mention that request. In imposing the canola tariffs, China's Ministry of Commerce has argued that Canada's canola sector has benefited from extensive government subsidies and preferential policies that distort markets, and that they launched their own anti-dumping probe. Quote, Canada does not dump canola. Canadian canola products meet the highest standards and our inspection systems are robust, Mr. Carney said. We will advance with a constructive dialogue with Chinese officials to address our respective trade concerns while diversifying our trade abroad and supporting our canola producers at home. The tariffs on canola are connected to Liberal government's decision last year to impose a tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum. Mr. Moe said Tuesday that he wants Mr. Carney to meet with the president of China to end the dispute. Quote, our federal government cannot sacrifice $43 billion canola industry, 200,000 jobs in that industry that is largely based in fairness in Western Canada to protect a fledgling electric vehicle industry largely based in Eastern Canada. But I'm guessing that Mr. Moe here is saying, but our federal government can sacrifice the fledgling electric vehicle industry, largely based in Eastern Canada, in order to protect the $43 billion canola industry and 200,000 jobs in that industry. Right? Mr. Poilievre said Canada must look at ways it can penalize the Chinese government, reiterating his call for the government to cancel the Canada Infrastructure Bank's $1 billion loan to BC Ferries for the purchase of Chinese-made vessels. Yes, but again, while offering no solution whatsoever as to how BC can get those vessels for a similar price at the same date, because the need for the vessels doesn't go away just because we're deciding to throw a temper tantrum because China is getting money. But he did not directly answer a question about whether he thinks the EV tariffs should be lifted. Interesting. Canada should use the revenue from the trade dispute to support affected Canadian sectors, he said. That was the plan all along. That was the said, like, even before the election. That's what Trudeau said when he imposed the counter tariffs. And that, of course, is mostly our canola producers, he said. Mostly the canola, mostly? Okay. Pierre seems to have no regard whatsoever for everybody in the lumber industry and the steel and aluminum industry and the copper industry, although that doesn't affect us all that much, but for those that it does. And the auto sector, he thinks mostly affected are canola producers. They are affected, and terribly so, and we do need to do something. Um, but I don't think we need to start playing the canola producer's suffering is worse than yours game, because nobody wins that one. Oh boy. All right. So it does look like there's some stuff going on. And this morning in the news on that front, it seems that Premier Scott Moe is going to China in order to be able to address that. So he called, Premier Moe called on Carney to meet with China on the canola trade. He says that he wants Mark Carney to meet with President Xi Jinping to resolve the trade issues. Quote, "It isn't going to be Premier Moe and President Xi that stand up and say, we've come to a trade deal here and everything is going to move forward." But Moe said that he will be in China in the next couple of weeks to engage with officials there, basically trying to do the same thing that Anand and ministers Anand and Champagne did when they went to Mexico, have some pre-meetings to prepare a larger meeting that would happen between the Prime Minister and the President. Scott Moe is going over there to try to prepare the train a little bit for this type of meeting that would deal with this issue here. There will be opportunities for the President and the Prime Minister to meet, I think, when you look at the global calendar of events, he told reporters after meeting with industry groups and federal government representatives in Saskatoon. Federal Agricultural Minister Heath MacDonald joined the meeting virtually along with Buckley Belanger, Saskatchewan's representative in cabinet. Moe said MacDonald was planning to be in Saskatoon but was not able to get there because of airline disruptions. Both Carney and Xi are expected to be at the G20 meetings in South Africa in November. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Forum is also being held in South Korea the same month. Moe said Thursday's meeting, which included canola producers and exporters, also included discussions about the challenges with Canada's top export market for canola, the U.S. China imposed a tariff of nearly 76% on canola seed last week, causing the price of one of Canada's most valuable crops to fall and wiping out millions of dollars in its value. And of course, this was timed to hit a couple weeks prior to harvest. So there's still a few weeks to go before harvest is happening. And, the producers are hoping that there's a market to sell their harvest to. It comes 1 year after China launched an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian canola, a move in response to Canada's 100% tariff on Chinese electrical vehicles, batteries, and other products. In response to the Canadian tariffs on China, in response to the Canadian tariffs, China also imposed 100% tariff on Canadian canola meal and oil. Cody Bloy, Cody Bloy's Carney's parliamentary secretary, said the Prime Minister plans to be in Western Canada in the coming weeks, quote, convening stakeholders and the Western premiers about what we can do to support the industry moving forward. There are a number of options on the table that we could take in the short term to help support the industry from a regulatory side, things that industry has been calling for, whether at the producer level or the processor level, he said. While canola futures are up, Bloy said there's a lot of uncertainty. Bloy said a joint Economic and Trade Commission meeting is set for next week. That meeting was the result of Carney's bilateral discussions in June with Chinese Premier Li Qiang. So again, as you know, Poilievre has been representing that nothing's being done and nobody cares. All the groundwork stuff, these types of calls that happen before these big meetings come, have been being worked on quietly in the background. We just haven't been drawing a lot of attention to it. Quote, this is an opportunity for Canadian authorities and Chinese authorities to engage on what we see as differences around trade. Canada exports nearly $15 billion of canola seed, oil, and meal per year, and nearly $5 billion of that went to China in 2024. Sask Oilseeds chair Dean Roberts, who was at the Thursday meeting, said farmers are being used, quote, as a pawn in the current geopolitical environment. He joined Moe's call for urgent federal action. Unprecedented market closure amidst an already stressful time of year has compounding adverse effect on farmers, he said in a statement released by Moe's office. And about 17 hours ago, like we mentioned, Moe confirmed the trip, saying that he will be traveling. He says, I myself will be in China in the next couple of weeks with potentially another opportunity for engagement before the end of the calendar year. Um, so, yeah. And then he also, Cody Bloy, noted that the federal government is aware of the threat the Chinese tariffs pose for producers in Saskatchewan right across Canada, adding that while negotiations with the Chinese will continue, Canada must also look to other markets. Quote, what I would say is the message is very clear and the government is very cognizant of the fact that the importance of the Chinese market for Canadian canola exports. The Premier is going to make his trip to China, but part of this conversation also revolves to the Premier's comments of what other markets are available. Mo reiterated the fact that on an issue as important as canola exports, it's essential for provincial and federal leaders to work together. Quote, it's of vital importance that we are addressing this in a collaborative fashion. It isn't going to be Premier Mo and President Xi that stand up and say, we've come to a trade deal here and everything is good moving forward. It's going to be the Prime Minister of Canada, Prime Minister Carney, and President Xi that ultimately are going to speak on behalf of their countries. Bloy continued, to those who are involved in the canola industry from a producer level, we know the anxiety of the uncertainty of the market access right now and what this means. We have tools at our disposal. We know your value, and we're going to work hand in hand with the government of Saskatchewan to see what we can do to mitigate the situation in the days ahead. The dates for most trip will be confirmed over the next several days. Farmers and Ottawa have rejected China's claim, of course, that there has been dumping. As we mentioned, we read that quote from Prime Minister Carney saying that Canada just doesn't dump that, and saying, of course, that exporters have followed rules-based orders. So there we go. A little bit of a overview of the situation in Canada, how we are doing currently, how things are impacting in the United States, and then, of course, talking a little bit about housing and canola specifically, because these elements are critical to our progress, given that we have this big housing program and given that we are looking to diversify our markets. And we don't want to be dealing with two trade wars on two fronts simultaneously. How we get out of the canola mess without reducing tariffs on EVs from China, and how we do that without creating less demand for EV related products, North American built EV related products in North America by allowing Chinese product in, as we are trying to build ourselves a position in the world chain, is a very, very tricky issue. And I don't envy it for Mark Carney, to be totally honest. But that's why we hired him, to figure this stuff out. So hopefully he will. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you include a little bit of yourself in there. It really helps us a lot. Kids and cubs, if you are on the go and busy and have to make things happen, and sometimes you don't have time to sit down and listen to us, well, we're here to help. Thanks to the generous contribution of the Ray Girl, Kids and Cubs, we are portable. So you just go to our pod page. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words, or you scan this QR code that has appeared on the screen, and that will bring you to the page. And there you click subscribe. And when you do, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, our audio cast comes directly to your podcast feed. You can pop us in your ears. We're portable. Take us with you. That way you get through the things you need to do during the day and remain an informed and engaged citizen. Win-win. We like that. Now, kids and cubs, if you'd like to help us in other ways, please grab your e-surfboard and hang 10 and go to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, as 21,400 of you have. We're still growing and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Click on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. Make Kits, Elaine, and Cassie, as well as us, happy and help us with the algorithm. Thank you. And if you'd like to help us in yet other ways, Kits and Cubs, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and you can help us with those if you would like to encourage us to do more and relieve us of some of that burden by making a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Mm, terrible thing, that dry beaver. So, Kits and Cubs, if you would go to our coffee page, that's coffee ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, or you can scan that QR code that has appeared. My nose has gotten really itchy all of a sudden. And if you can go there and drop a few toonies or loonies in there to say, add a beaver, add a grizzly, we like what you're doing, we want more of it. And you know, a cup of hot chocolate for me and a cup of coffee for Mr. Grizzly does us a lot of good, warms the insides, and brings a smile to our face. So, any little pat on the back that you can give us would be very appreciated. Now, Kits and Cubs, if you're doing the Buy Canada thing, truenortheagerbeaver at gmail.com is where you can send a direct transfer rather than going through our coffee page. And that allows it so that your transaction happens entirely with Canadian banks, that it bypasses the US CE tech bros, who then take a portion of the cut they take from us and then offer it back to Donald Trump as tribute for him to do terrible things to us. And as well, Kits and Cubs ensures that we get 100% of your donation because you cut out the middleman. Again, win 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 this time. Three wins. So if you could donate that way, we would be very grateful. And to whomever scanned one of the QR codes just now, thank you so very much. Really, very much appreciated. Kits and Cubs. Let's see. truenortheagerbeaver at gmail.com. That email address that we gave you is also the address at which you can write us, because if you're not able to donate financially, why not let us know what you think about the show? Because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. So, good, bad, or ugly, let us know what you think about the show. We love flattery. We love compliments. We do take constructive feedback as well, and constructive criticism. Absolutely. And of course, suggestions for guests. And of course, if you happen to have a small home based business or community activity going on and you'd like to advertise on our show, we do have a plan for absolutely every budget. Let us help you get the word out. So do write to us. We like to help, and I'm sure we can find a way to help you. All right, Kids and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Oh, I forgot to tell you, if you want to reach us on our socials, at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge, as well as on the shitter, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook, our original home on the web, or right here on our YouTube page, whether you are listening live with the best damn fam in all of podcasting, or at your own convenience. Comment section right below. Write us a little something. We read everything you write, even though we're not able to answer everyone. And we thank you so much. Now, Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Remember, there's a by-election in Manitoba, provincial by-election on the 26th in Spruce Woods. So get to know your candidates, do some door knocking, volunteer if you can, make political donation, check to see if they still need some people at the polling stations. All of that is very, very important. And of course, make your plan to vote. And you can vote in advance still until the 25th at the main returning office in Brandon, I believe it is. I'm just going to take a little check there to make sure that I got you the absolutely correct information. Yes, at the Spruce Woods local election office in the Coral Center, located at 811 8th Street North in Brandon. Offices are open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., except on Sundays, noon to 6 p.m. And of course, voting day on the 26th, polling stations will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And as we keep on mentioning, if you live in Alberta, Elections Alberta has approved a referendum question on Alberta remaining part of Canada, but now organizers from forevercanadian.ca must collect just under 294,000 signatures and more, as we keep on reminding you, because Danielle Smith will certainly try to invalidate some of them. So we need to sign in numbers too great for her to manipulate in order to move the question to an actual ballot. So please go to www.forever-canadian.ca to volunteer, donate, become an official canvasser, because all the signatures have to be done in person. We can't sign this online. You actually have to show up or have a canvasser come to you to get your signature, or pledge to sign the petition when it comes your way. Words of wisdom, kids of Cubs. It's Friday. Let your hair down. Have some fun. Do something this weekend to treat yourself. I might actually even go dancing this weekend, and I haven't been dancing in a long time, but there's an opportunity, so I might do that. It's Pride weekend after all in Ottawa. Why not shake your booty? Hey. And words of wisdom, join us for the podcast. That matters a lot. And I'm trying to see. Normally, there's a little thing that we have here for the podcast where we can play the music and do that little um, advertising for it. But I do not see it anymore. I do not know where it went, so I cannot play it for you. But tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, tech willing, join us for the monthly pubcast, all friendly pub chat, no politics, no religion. Just get together as a little community and have some time together and enjoy each other's company, and maybe a cold bevy, maybe even a snack. All right. And Mr. Grizzly will be there. So if you've missed him, it's a good opportunity to check in with him, and I will find out how things have been going in his life. All right. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. It could be a tough world out there, kids and cubs. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of three, if I may beg your indulgence, and I have no idea why that QR code for the blue door is up. That has nothing to do with us. It just popped up on its own. Weird. Tech this week has been an issue for has been doing weird stuff on me. But kids and cubs, please, at the count of three, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, yes, such melodious sounds. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, before you go, just a little note on Canadians who make us proud. Unfortunately, in the qualifications for the US Open, uh, both Cadence Brace and Carol Zhao lost their second round match, but Rebecca Marino won her second round match, advancing her to the third and final round of qualifications. Again, a match according to the numbers on paper that she should be able to win, and it would be really good for her because she's been working hard this season and not getting the results to show for it. So her being able to make the main draw of the U.S. Open, another Grand Slam, would be a nice way to end the season, given that she has indeed been putting in the work, and it would be nice to see her get some reward for it. So I'm going to be crossing my fingers and cheering for her. And I'll be able to let you know tomorrow on the podcast how she did. Until then, amour et bisous, and wish me a bon voyage to the nation's capital, where I will be there to be able to deliver the podcast to you tomorrow with my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Until then, kids and cubs. Mwah. And just like magic, I'm gone.